All right, thank you very much. My name is Noah Malgeri. I'm the principal and founder for Mojave Rail Fabrication Limited, which has invented and hopes to shortly market a new roof rack solution for carrying cargo on roofs. This is the problem that our solution solves and addresses, which many of us are familiar with, trying to load some type of cargo recreational equipment on top of a vehicle that's tall. And it creates a lot of stress and anxiety. There's danger, risk for injury. You could damage your vehicle. Oops. Use the buttons instead. So, especially as SUVs and crossovers become more common and popular among folks who enjoy outdoor activities, those vehicles are typically fairly tall, and for shorter people or people who just have shoulder problems, loading something heavy like a larger bike or a fat tire a mountain bike or a stand-up paddleboard, something like that, a cargo box is going to present a lot of issues, and you're going to need to use some sort of assist, whether it be from a ladder or some sort of workaround, all of which create issues in terms of your confidence that your load is adequately and properly secured for the rigors of travel, which could involve wind and 18-wheelers and who knows what else. Also could create a possibility for injury if you fall or slip, if your shoes are wet, if it's raining out, if it's dark, there's an issue. So that's the issue that we're addressing with our solution. Here's what people commonly do to work around. I've done this many times, which is kind of standing on the door sill like that, which is really precarious. And if the wind blows, if the door swings open and then catches you in the ribs, it doesn't feel good. Here's another common workaround. You see this all the time. Not safe, especially if the tire's got mud on it. Here's some individuals on a ladder. Here we go with a cooler that potentially could, if that slips, it's going to dump all the food and the ice on the floor. Here's another one with a wet tire. That guy's lucky to have boots on, but if you've got bare feet or some other type of shoes that don't offer good footing, like flip-flops, then you're in trouble. So our solution is a roof rack, but it is designed in a way that kind of harnesses the elegant, very fundamental design of nature and arc to provide a method of bringing the loading area down closer to the user, the driver, in a way that makes it facilitates loading and unloading and allows ready access to the loading area to ensure that the load is very well secured. Just a little bit about myself. I am got my undergrad in mechanical engineering and then went on to law school. Got a couple of law degrees. I was a patent attorney for about 10 years in Boston, DC, and Orange County at some national law firms. My business partner, Ron Burgess, is an experienced aerospace technologist and engineer, but he also, I think, more relevantly, invented a very popular roof rack solution, or actually cargo rack solution that we see on the roads all the time, which is, he used to call it the rack and lock, but essentially it's the bike rack that goes in your tow hitch. So that was his brainchild. He licensed it to Thule Corporation, which is a Swedish conglomerate, recreational equipment. And now he's working with me on this. This is our second venture together. So I had previously come up with another design for the solution, which I'll briefly go over so you can see the evolution and the motivations for the design changes that you'll see in the newest version. The old version was CNC machine, CNC mill, which is computer numerical computer controlled milling device. And you can import CAD, CAD designs directly to the machine will mill it as long as it has the right tool on it. The downside for this, and I had one made as a prototype, this is what it looks like exploded. So there's 3 rail segments per for the fore and the aft rail section, each has 3 segments, and then there's 2 towers that are intermediate between the rack and the car roof. This solution, this is what it looks like extended, so they're kind of telescoping. And here's what it would look like from the side, and there's an illustration of what it would look like with a user and the rack extended down and like a stand-up paddleboard. And the design itself is sound as far as I can tell from my testing and research, except for there's problems with the manufacturing approach, which I've addressed in the second version. So the arced or boat rails are really resist load well, they don't flex. It enables a natural sort of gliding motion, which is pleasant to use. There's no abrupt or jerky movements whatsoever, which is really important when you have a heavy load on. So there's no surprises, and there's very few moving parts. As you can see from the exploded view, there's only 3 moving parts per rail, and then the towers themselves. And interestingly, I found there's no other commercial solutions that use this approach. So, there's other evolutions of this that would lend itself to being adapted to be powered, for example, to go up and down. But for now, my design is just completely manual. I have filed a provisional patent on this last year. I have a few more months on that until August, until I need to file my utility patent. So really, roof racks or cargo racks are fairly ubiquitous if you just kind of informally observe as you drive around the valley. And some other regions that are even more popular than here, especially in places with a coastline. In California, for example, almost everybody has a rack on their car. There's stores that are dedicated to just on racks. Rack and Road is a big chain in Southern California. All they sell is racks, and they're a big business. So that's kind of the market perspective. I think there's a fairly ripe market there. What I'd like to do, the vision for this product is to manufacture it in the United States and place it with recreational equipment companies around the valley. Here's something that is offered by Yakima, but it's very, very expensive and clunky. You actually need 2 parts. You need a rack, and then this sits on top of your regular conventional rack. It's called the Showdown, and then it drops very abruptly, and it also contacts your vehicle. And you want to avoid any vehicle contact because that has an opportunity to mar your finish. But so again, for the Showdown, which is probably the closest thing I could find to a competitor, it's very expensive because you have to have the rack set plus the Showdown. So you're talking $900 all in. It's only configured for kayaks and stand-up paddleboard, and it doesn't really drop down that far. But there's a lot of moving parts. So that probably is behind some of the expense associated with the unit. There's a lot to freeze up or fail. There's links, hinges, sliding tracks, etc. that can get sand and other things in them. So my initial design that you saw a little bit about is, I don't know if you can use, I have to switch so you can see this.
Don't worry about it.
Okay, I have a CNC machine one that I commissioned to be designed just consistent with my initial design. I interviewed a few different machinists here, decided on one, spent $600 on that, and it's going to take too much machine work to do CNC machining. It's very, very strong, but it's just too time and cost intensive. What that led me to was my second version, which is extrusion. Extrusion is an interesting manufacturing process that uses high heated aluminum that's forced through a die, which is like, if you think about like a Play-Doh set, if you have kids that have like a Play-Doh set where you squeeze the Play-Doh through different shapes and it comes out in stars and things like that. That's what extrusion is, but it's really good for making shapes that are complex. And so I can extrude this for much cheaper, and it'll be much lighter, be more aerodynamic. It'll be less wasted material, no wasted material. So the only problem with the extrusion, it's not a problem at all, but it comes out straight. So I need to have a second manufacturing step, which is to die press the assembled sections. Is that 10 minutes already? Okay.
Yeah, so go ahead and wrap it up. How much more do you have?
Yeah, I just have a few more slides. I want to show you the CNC. I want to show you the my cat, and there's a icon right above where I need to click. But anyway, this is the rack solution. It slides down like this. So if you look at this, it presents it right at kind of your shoulder level.
Yeah, you got to figure out how to show this. This is cool.
Yeah.
It kind of presents it right at shoulder level, and it's so elegant. It just slides. So it's only 3 pieces. It's very structurally rigid because the center piece is an I-beam. And I have some experience designing this kind of stuff in engineering school. And we had a bridge competition that I won. But this is basically the design. So it brings it. This is 5 feet high. This SUV, and so it brings the whatever you want to load right down. You have to grab it manually at this point, but there's other iterations. But it brings it so you can really access it right to about your shoulder level.
So
Yes.
And you're doing all the manufacturing analysis yourself?
Yes, my business partner and I do the manufacturing, but it's very simple. The manufacturing techniques used have been known for 100 years. No, I'm asking for $50K.
Okay, so then $50,000 for what?
So this is the break that I have right now, and at
No,
least
I'm not asking about what's it used for. I'm asking
Equity.
what is it? I mean, are you?
I think form. I probably. I mean, I'm very open to discussing different forms, but a convertible note would be fine. Like a 2-year note.
Okay, so that's fine. Convertible. So then say the ask is $50,000 on a 2-year convertible note.
Okay.
That's your ask.
Always ask for more than what you think you need.
That seems like a small amount of money.
Yeah.
That's a really small amount of money to raise.
Small amount of money for something that
And a friend.
yeah.
I don't see how you can get it produced and then go out and market and all the things you're gonna need to do with
This just gets them through prototype though.
That's what I want to do. I want to get through like just the seed round and get started and get prototyped and get some pre-orders.
Hey, no, go back a slide, please.
well, then you're gonna need more.
Go back a slide.
It's better to have too much money than not enough.
Yeah, but you don't want to raise too much at so early a stage where you're going to end up giving up more equity. You want to raise
I think
enough.
one of the things,
Sure.
I mean, there's 2 dimensions there, right? 50,000 is not very much money. It's certainly not very much money for a whole year. I think if you need 50,000, you probably can do this stuff. Certainly the first 4 bullets in about 3 months, maybe.
I think you're right.
So if you say 50,000 for 3 months, okay, that's probably reasonable. If you extend that out, it's 200 for a year.
Okay, so that's what I'll do.
You're not going to take a whole year to burn 50,000, right? You're certainly not going to take a whole year to do that. I mean, most of your time is going to be going to trade shows.
Right.
My preference would be to, if I were an investor listening to you, my preference would be to hear that how much money you need to get to revenue generation.
Yeah, get through
Right.
It's
prototypes.
a bigger number.
Yeah, get through the prototypes, do your marketing, take your initial orders. Yeah,
Yep.
and whether you're going to go the route of marketing it yourself or you're going to go the route of an Indiegogo kind of campaign, whatever that is. I mean, this product is prime for crowdfunding. It really is.
Especially at that.
But
small
I can,
amount.
yeah, I can tell you right now that there's like these guys at the Rain Factory that do a lot of this crowdfunding stuff. The marketing budget for them alone is going to be $100,000
Right.
to produce the video, to get you to do the advertising that's going to draw people into the crowdfunding. You're going to spend at least $100,000 with those guys just on the marketing stuff,
And
plus this $50,000.
Have you thought about, when you're doing pre-orders, are you asking people to pay in advance?
No, I just want commitments that they'll order, I mean.
Okay, then you're going to need cash to build those things, right? You got to worry about your float and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's why crowdfunding
Really be
works.
thoughtful about how much you need to get to your first sale of 1,000 of these things.
Yeah, you don't. I mean, you.
Well,
you're gonna do a pre-order, you should look to get a deposit that comes pretty close to covering your cost of manufacturing.
Okay.
So if you're gonna take a pre-order, you probably should be asking for $100 deposit.
Do you think that's the case if it's Shields and they want 1,000 of these things, are they gonna give a deposit?
No.
So yes, that's great if you get the deposit, agreed, certainly reduce your risk. But be thoughtful about, what it's gonna take to sell 1,000 of these things, and 800 of those are in retail and 200 are to individuals.
can you tell
Yeah,
us?
I'm talking about the 200 to individuals.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Tell us more about this Thermo-Free. They're the manufacturer?
So Thermocrene is a extrusion vendor outside of Cleveland. And they're not really the manufacturer of the entire thing, but what they're going to
prototype it.
well, they're gonna an extrusion vendor is going to have to be involved with the manufacturing at some point, because it's a giant plant that you have to have and maintain a lot of expensive equipment. So, but it's just going to send straight rails to me with the proper cross section.
Right,
Those
and then
rails are going to have to be mowed.
then there's another step in the manufacturing process that
Yeah,
has
you got molds to create this thing, right?
No, they're going to extrude it, and then they're going to make the straight rails. Then those rails are going to get shipped to another manufacturing place where they're going to cut them and bend them to the right
Okay.
place.
You could cast them, but it would not be a good manufacturing for this, because it wouldn't be strong enough, it'd be brittle, and also it's too complex to really cast. You have a lot of air bubbles and things like that.
Yeah. So they're going to have to be it's 2 steps, which is a little more expensive, but
Yeah,
you'll create something
potentially 3 steps, because it would be extrusion, and then bowing, and then a temper after they're in shape, and then a surface treatment. If you want to do anodizing, make them black, red, blue, whatever color, and anodizing that's weather resistant.
Gotcha.
You want to do US? Why? Because of quality?
No, I don't want to necessarily do US for quality. I think you get good quality stuff outside the US, but for IP concerns, for sure. Everyone's pushing me to China. You can get extrusions really cheap. I don't want to send my IP to China. I have concerns about that.
I get knocked off.
Yeah, I have concerns about that. So I'd like to be able to meet with and, have lunch with the people I'm working with.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's a good place to start. It may not be the forever plan, but it's certainly a good place to start.
I get the sense these are going to be reasonably heavy too, so you got to be thoughtful about shipping these things all over the place to get to your markets. And even between your 3-step manufacturing process, don't be loading up with shipping these things back and forth from the country.
Yeah, unless you can put the plants all together in a row.
Yeah, try to get them in a very close area.
All right, so let's get to the end. So Noah, I think hopefully you were tracking some of the feedback that you got.
Yeah, I wrote it all down here.
Simplify on your problem statement. Simplify on your comparison to the competitor, and then get to showing your product as fast as possible. Make your ask really simple. And I don't think you're asking for enough. I think most of this crowd's thinking, 200, 250, so that you can get through your whole first year and get all the way to the point where you're actually selling these things.
All right, so like 50K for 3 months, and then scale it up to like 200K per year.
No, what he's saying is just give him a total that you're asking for.
Yeah, $200,000 on a convertible note. What does that get you? That gets you to your first commercial sales.
Are you familiar with the construction of convertible notes?
Somewhat, yeah. I am. I've never had one, but.
Okay, because there's some moving parts you need to think about if you're going to offer it. Go do some research. If you have some questions, get back with me or Steve or Jeff.
Yeah.
We can educate you.
So a convertible note is actually, you're not selling your company. It's a loan, right? That converts when you raise a priced round. So you don't have to worry about trying to figure out how much your company's worth right now on a convertible note. That will come later. And the people that you get the loan from, their note converts, hence the name convertible. You pay them interest, which is usually not in cash. It's just an extra stock that you're going to give them. And they usually get a discount to whatever the priced round is. 20, 30% is usually the discount. So you can either specify the terms that you want, and a lot of that stuff was in the note that we sent to you to fill out.
Yeah.
Pretty traditional.
That's what I put an 8%, a 2-year convertible note.
Yeah. So that's how it works. It's really easy to do this kind of stuff early days when you have no idea how much your company's worth, and you don't have to figure it all out. So.
Pitching on Thursday.
Yeah, so you need to get your understanding of the convertible note right away, and we'll want to have another look at your pitch deck. And there's a reason I always comment about 37 slides. It's far too many.
Yeah.
Too many words. We need pictures, and you need to be able to see it in the back of a very large room. So we want big pictures, big text, not much words.
Yeah, no, if you're open to it and you have time in the next couple of days, I'd be happy to work on this with you.
That's
That'd be great.
That's a heck of an offer.
I think you're in a really unique position pitching to this group who's just kind of learning about investing, writing their first checks, and at least 90% of the room is going to have faced your problem. You're relatable, which, blockchain and that kind of stuff isn't. So.
Right, and some of the panel members from the Pitch Fest are planning on staying over, and they love patentable stuff. They just
And
love
those
it.
are the experienced investors.
So Noah, I want to give you a last piece of advice that I give to every engineer, entrepreneur that I've ever worked with. If your investors are writing your epitaph, you want them to remember you for being a great businessman, not for being a great engineer.
Makes sense.
Okay, so all the stuff that you love, the manufacturing, the solutions, the prototype 1, prototype 2, design 3, design 4, your investors don't give a crap about. And I'm sorry to be blunt.
That the whole thing about the first iteration, just toss it out.
Yes.
Toss it. Toss it. What you want to do is you want to spend a minute on the problem, spend a minute on the solution, including the competition, and spend the next 8 minutes talking about your business.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm sorry to give you that advice, but every engineer I've ever worked with has the same issue. I have the same issue with my companies. I love the technology. I love talking about the technology, and I just watch investors glaze over as soon as I start. So don't do that. You're not a tech company. You're a product company. Talk about your business.
Right.
Makes sense.
And when we're in the room together, one of us will coordinate before you go up, but one of us in the room with you, it might be me, it might be Steve, it might be John. We will be motioning to you to pick up the pace.
Right.
So pay attention to us, because we're going to be watching the audience where it's going to be harder for you to do that.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Well, you can unshare your slides so we can see each other now.